I can't think of a more fitting time to talk about getting a handle of our emotions as this year, 2020. I mean, what a year it's been. Before I get started, I get too much into this. We got to admit it hasn't been all bad. I can tell you that the mental health business and Zoom, they're just completely rocking it this year. One of the reasons I know that is I'm an online therapist with BetterHelp, and I personally have turned away about 300 clients since June. So we got to get this. This is an important part. What is the deal about stress and mental health? So the best way to do that is for you and I to take a trip backwards and go back to high school biology. That's where the answers are. I'm sure you remember it because it was just like yesterday for all of us. But there's 4 lobes in our brain. The one that you and I are going to talk about is the temporal lobe. That's where all the action is, where with our fear center, and with that small reaction that everybody's talking about, the stress response, the fight, the flight, or the freeze. See, when we get stressed, there's something that's going on that's just completely automatic. What's happening is our mind is going on hyperdrive. Our mind is telling our body to get ready because we're in for something. We're in danger right now. Physiologically, what's happening is your heart is going nuts, your breathing rate is going up, and your muscles are getting tight because we got to meet the challenge. But there's some other things that are going on that you've got to be aware of. Here's the deal. If this particular action, our reaction, goes on for a long period of time without breaks in the middle, what happens is that we actually develop these neural superhighways within the temporal lobe, meaning that they're feeding off of one another, and memories and feelings are coming out. And the only problem with that is what happens eventually too is that we lose that connection to the frontal lobe. Brothers and sisters, that's a place that we need. That's the frontal lobe. That's what's telling us how to respond to things logically and with rational thought. But there is something they didn't teach you in high school. It's kind of like a small evolutionary glimpse at the system. Our brains can't really distinguish between imagined threats or real threats. So what's happening is you and I are having the same reaction just thinking about getting coronavirus as we are actually when we receive the diagnosis over the phone. There's another small glitch going on, is that we have a really hard time figuring out when we're in physical danger and when we're in social danger. So you might be going, oh, that's why, meaning that when we get criticized, our minds and bodies are having the same physiological reaction as we did if we were trying to get out of the way of an approaching car. A couple of really important things to know about. But I think the bottom line is this. When we really think about it, I think our dogs and cats, they're probably a lot happier than we are. Definitely a lot more peaceful. Well, here's the million-dollar question, right? Why did Jonathan ask me to talk to you about this? How do we get untethered to all this emotional unrest that's happening? Well, today's your lucky day, because I thought of an acronym that's really simple to remember. And this is the way to get untethered, get a handle of our feelings, and that is this. The acronym is I am. As simple as that, I am. So what does it stand for, right? It stands for identifying, accepting, and mitigating all those thoughts and feelings that are going around in our brains on a daily basis. Now, I've been hanging out with this community for about 25 years now, so I can almost hear you saying to me from your homes, now wait a minute, Deb, you're telling me the only thing I need to do to become more peaceful is to do these things I am? Well, do you know me? I am an emotional mess. That's what you might be saying at home. So you know what? I accept the challenge, and let's break it down. So here's the deal. We know that we have thousands and thousands of thoughts a day. The thing about them is, most of them are negative. Many of them are repetitive. And our brain is constantly scurrying about from our past to our future. Now we wonder why we're so stressed out. But come with me for a minute over to the past. This is you. This is a younger version of you. In our past, this is what's happening. We are actually figuring out through experiences with our families or with schools. We're trying to figure out who we are and how this world is. Is it a good place? A scary place? We're also trying to figure out where our place is in the world. And because I got to have the amazing journey to go around the country and listen to all of you tell me about the mental health challenges in this community, this is what I heard some of the perceptions are in our community, as a result of having our bleeding disorder. For men in the community, I heard you loud and clear. You've let me know that you're so tired of people telling you what you can't do. You're so tired of self-limitations or limitations placed on you. In fact, many of you told me this, that you'll do anything within your power to not let people know how much pain you're in, either physically or emotionally, because you don't want to be taken care of, and you don't want to feel less of a man. For women, I've heard you too. You've let me know that from a very, very young age, you never really felt heard in the community, much less validated for what your experience is with a bleeding disorder. Maybe a lesser known thing too that we've developed is for the milds and moderates. I have a unique opportunity to talk to you right now. And I've heard you say this too, that many times there's a degree of guilt or minimizing your feelings, maybe not feeling really comfortable talking about them at annual meetings. Because I think there is this culture within our community that says, severes, you're entitled to problems and pain, but we're not. And lest we forget, we have got to acknowledge and re-acknowledge the generational trauma that's happened in our community by so many of our loved ones, blood brothers and sisters that were taken away from us, gone too soon from Hep C and HIV. Brothers and sisters, whether we really acknowledge this or not, because I can tell you from a personal perspective, it's always in the back of my mind, and my husband's as well. There is this baseline fear in our community that does create a lot of stress, a lot of emotional unrest, because we know, even though we have amazing treatments, they're safe, they're effective, we know that something bad has happened in the past. It plants the seed. So these are some of the things that are in our past that have developed into beliefs or values that can really wreak havoc into us. So now we need to go to something else. There's a book that says this: many times when we develop some kind of assumptions, when there's danger, they can fall into a couple of categories. Let's see which one resonates with you, right? Sometimes we develop an intolerance of uncertainty. This is that kind of person, you've seen them before. They just won't make a move until they're completely certain, or they've gotten a lot of people's different points of view about what they should do. Perfectionism. Learning that it's just not okay to make a mistake. The cousin of perfectionism has to do with this feeling of not being good enough. The imposter syndrome. If you really knew me, you would know I really don't have my stuff together. And then there's another one, and I see this in our community so much. We develop this mindset. Our way of controlling things is to be overly responsible for others, meaning that I'm in charge of your safety and even your happiness. So you can imagine this can get pretty stressful. Now, I know we're talking about some heavy stuff, and I'm supposed to be talking about how we can get untethered from this. But before we get there, let's go ahead and go to the future. Here's that other place. Here's that other place that has all kinds of strife and stress. And I can really sum it up in 2 words. Anticipatory stress. This is where the what-ifs live. This is where the fear of the unknown live. And they can also keep us in a constant state of unrest, of not knowing what to do, just stress in general. So at home, think for just a minute. How much time do you spend in the past or in the future as opposed to being in the present? Because, you know what? You might be saying at home, wait a minute, Jonathan promises a speech on how to get peaceful, right? And you're telling us all these different things. Because here's the idea. This stuff is stressing us out. Whether we're talking about it, whether we're running about it, running away from it, it's happening. And really, what's the solution? It's right here. It's right here in the present. This is where the magic happens. This is the only guaranteed space and time we have. And you know what? It's always been that way. What we have to do is plant our feet firmly in the present and create this space where we can actually think about our automatic thoughts that are popping up, those thoughts we developed a long time ago, and see if they still are important today, see if they even make sense today. Things like, do I still need to be perfect to be valued? Am I enough just how I am? Can I admit to being scared and still be a man or be a competent person? If people have seen me speak, they know that I always try to make something personal of it. And for me, it's just as healing as maybe you hearing the words. But for me, I had to get through two demons. Two demons in my past that always kept emotional unrest in me. And that is, I'm okay if other people are not okay with me. That's something I wrestled with for a long, long time. Kind of comes out of conditional love in a childhood, but that's another story. And also, I really felt that I needed to do everything I could to make sure we turned down interpersonal tension because I just can't handle it. Now, you can imagine how much energy all of that takes, right? It takes me out of the present every moment. So what is this? So I've done my identifying, right? But what is this acceptance part of this? You just accept that's who you are and that's how you'll always be? Acceptance is so much different than that. Acceptance is this, realizing that you made those decisions about you and the way this world works when you were just a young person trying to make your way in a world that might have been dysfunctional or was definitely unpredictable, especially with a bleeding disorder. You have to go back in time and talk to that young person and say, thank you so much for helping me survive, for teaching me how to get by. But you know what? I got this now. I'm 57 years old. I can make new decisions about who I am and what I'm capable of. And I can make those decisions where they make more sense in my life now, but more importantly, that they are empowering and they're accepting, and most importantly, that they're self-compassionate. I can forgive my transgressions because there are reasons for them. But now I can make some new decisions, and that's what everybody can do right now. So what's this mitigating part of all of this unrest that we're talking about? This is where it gets tricky, because our instinct is to do this. When we're sad, or anxious, or angry, our instinct is to avoid that pain, to go drink it away, to go busy ourselves away, to become self-important. And the thing about it is, that just keeps it going, because it doesn't end. The only true way to get out of this anxiety cycle is to be willing to stay in that space of all those uncomfortable emotions. Being able to stay there, mitigate. It's a lot like metabolism. If you've had too much to drink, I know this sounds strange, but it's a lot like that. After a while, the effects are going to go off. You can handle this. Allow the feelings to wash over within you. That's the way that you're able to stay in a space and you're able to make new decisions and do new things that help you get out of these mindsets that we developed as kids when we were just trying to figure out how to survive. I believe in one of the components of Buddhism, and that really is that most of man's and woman's suffering, it comes from the resistance of pain. We ruminate about problems. We anticipate. We're angry at having bleeding disorders. I completely understand that, but just allowing it to flow is the way to get personal freedom. So, one of the things you can do too, as silly as it sounds, is you can thank those old coping mechanisms that you've developed. For me, I get super defensive when I'm criticized. And I never liked that part of myself. As you can imagine, it caused a lot of problems. But once I was able to accept it and talk to it, thank you so much for helping me feel safe when I didn't feel safe. But I got this now. I can make a new decision. I don't have to be reactive. All of this is a really long way of saying this. Our true freedom lies in our ability to make decisions about who we are in the here and now. And so I would give anything in the world to be in the same room with you, with all of you right now. But since I can't, I would like to ask you this simple question. What are those beliefs that you have about yourself or about how the world works that are keeping you from your best life? That are keeping you from feeling happy and peaceful and competent to handle what comes next? So I hope that the next time I'm able to see you and get the hugs and be with you, we can all have such a candid discussion about this. Because here's the deal. I am enough, and we are definitely more than enough. I can't wait to see you, and thank you for listening.